Good evening, everyone. Being last session, I think most of the other guys have stolen all my punchlines, so I have no punchlines left now. So I'm going to quickly start. But okay, the important part, right? I think I agree with quite a few things that were discussed earlier today. For example, my kid, she doesn't differentiate between smaller screen or bigger screen, right? For her, it is whatever she wants to watch, right? So that's important. So maybe going forward, we are not really going to talk about connected TV. It's going to be just television as such. And the importance of attribution. That is another important thing which I believe I will personally look out for because that's a huge gap that I think all of us are staring at. I'm going to quickly start with Rahul. I'm going to read out the questions because some of them are slightly lengthy, so I may forget. So I'm going to just keep it simple. Rahul, the first question is for you. Fast platforms have gained significant traction today. Can you share some insights on the growth and adoption of fast services in India? And what is driving users to stream more free ad-supported content?
Thanks, Marcus. Audible? Paras, thank you so much. It's great to be on this panel, and it's great to be around some familiar faces, both from agency partners, our tech partners, and some clients or potential clients. When it comes to FAST, which is basically, I think, let me clarify for everybody, it's free ad-supported streaming TV. AdTech is known for having a lot of acronyms. It's SWOD, AWOD. The only thing which differentiates FAST is it's not on demand. I think it's mostly like a smarter version of linear TV. There's no on-demand aspect of it. You asked about what are the driving factors behind FAST. So FAST has proliferated a lot in India. There are a few major players like Samsung TV Plus. What is leading this charge is primarily, some common trends. We are sitting in a building which is Geo Convention Center, so that revolutionized internet in India. I think that is what basically have every corner of India covered. So penetration of India is one of the major factors. Of course, there is affordability of devices, which is, everybody's having, let's say, a 5K, 10K smartphone, access to, cheaper connected TV or smart TVs as well, which is basically making content available for everybody. So that's second. I think some of the major trends, and I think I don't think FAST is a standalone topic to be discussed. I think it's more about FAST platforms, it's CTV, it's OTT, everything put together, because that's essentially what's driving the content consumption in India, right? And we at Trade Desk believe that it should not be just about platforms and channels. It should be about audiences first, which is wherever your audiences are, and the trend is that audiences are consuming content anywhere and everywhere, and sometimes on two platforms at the same time. So if you follow an audience-first approach, that is what matters the most. Of course, the trend is going up. It's going to keep increasing more. There's a lot of competition amongst content players, OTTs, CTVs, to kind of produce increasing content and interesting content, which drives audiences. But I think it's mostly about, can you really be there engaging the audiences in the platform of their choice? Of course, it is a challenge for marketers and our agency partners as well, because there's only limited budget, and you want to invest it in the place which is giving you the most buck for your most bang for your buck, right? And I think that is where a lot of our agency partners and advertisers are looking to us and platforms, which is optimizing your media spends in the most efficient fashion. So that's my initial response, Paras.
Great. I think on TTD, I remember you guys have a special feature whereby you can identify the user through a cookie-less kind of a mechanism. I think for one of our campaigns which we ran via TTD, I think it did really well. So what you spoke about, I think it kind of reminded me of that. To Sonali, one of the key debates is whether fast services are complementary to existing subscription and broadcast offerings, or if they represent a fundamental shift in how we consume television. What are your views on this, and how do you see the relationship between fast and traditional television evolving?
Thanks, Paras. I believe that it's neither. because in my head, this is a continuum. It's not one or the other. If you were to take a spectrum, on one end of which is linear TV, and on the other end is OTT and SVOD specifically, I think FAST sits somewhere in the middle. And what I mean by that is it's much closer to linear TV because, as you said, Rahul, it is more about streaming, but it's not on demand. However, what it does do is give you one more surface to access content on, and specifically when you're mobile. And I think there are some environments that beautifully lend themselves to fast content. And some of those are live TV, some of those are reality, some of those are even regional things that you cannot actually get enough of AVOD or SVOD content on. However, I also think that there are both complementary and disruptive characteristics of fast to linear TV. And the complementary being, of course, more access, more surfaces to be able to get it on. But the disruptive ones are specifically in this zone of people moving away from more traditional and linear formats of consuming television content. And I think as we go and as data becomes more and more accessible and devices are actually far more affordable than large television screens are, it is bound to become a preference. We are still far from it. But the most important thing for me is that India is still largely a single TV owning country. And if that be the case, people today don't have the barrier that everyone has to sit around and watch the same kind of television. And everyone is sitting around in their cocoons and actually consuming the content that they want to, because while India is a single TV owning household market to a very large degree, it is not a single mobile device owning market. So if we were to look at some of those, I don't think there is any straightforward answer to that. Fast has a lot of pros, and that is price barriers are completely circumvented, access is much easier, regional content is far more accessible. FOMO on live events and sporting events is something that you don't have to deal with if you're not in front of a television screen at that moment. So it has a lot of positives, but it also has its own barriers of access. And I think one of the things that we were talking about outside is actually discoverability of content and saying that, what are you going to pick? Because this is one more seriously fragmented offering that is coming. And how people are going to be able to find out what is it that they're going to, because it's an app within an app within an app, and it just keeps going deeper. And the other big barrier, and I was listening to the earlier conversation, the fireside chat. I think unified measurement is a very serious drawback. And I think if you were to take some of those, I think there is still a while to get large-scale adoption. Also, scale is a problem with fast right now. So some of those challenges are not going to overnight be fixed, but I definitely see a trend moving towards a lot more, I would say, device democratization, which fast enables.
I agree with that. I'll give you my personal experience. So at my father's place, they've installed one of the connected boxes rather than going for a standard DTH. Initially for about a month and a half, both my mother and father were struggling to just understand the UI, right? How do I navigate through, I want to watch something on Sony TV, right? How do I do that? So I agree with that. I think there is a lot of work that is still required on that. And of course, measurement is something which is extremely important. Marcus, over to you. Thank you so much, sir. Ad effectiveness is a critical metric for advertisers. How do fast platforms compare to other advertising channels in terms of engagement, targeting, and ROI for advertisers? Are there any unique advantages they offer in this regard?
First of all, thank you for having me, and it's actually my first time in Mumbai as well, so it's been a very,
great, welcome.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Maybe you want to start with, what was your first reaction when you landed here in Mumbai?
Sorry?
What was your first reaction when you landed here in Mumbai?
I came from Delhi, so it was,
Okay.
I haven't seen too much of Mumbai. What I've seen, my team my colleagues took me on this the sea route. They're waving there in the back. I got to see the ocean, and you know, it's very, very, very pretty. But I have some more exploration to do before I go back, I think.
Excellent. I think it's a great city. You should explore.
Yeah, so I think talking about fast as a concept, and I want to talk about it as a concept because it all comes down to execution as well, right? The promise is, I think it's a fantastic opportunity because it's really kind of opening the box of the convergence of traditional television and digital, right? So you have the impact of TV with a kind of uncluttered, you know, in some cases big screen. I know that India still is a very kind of mobile heavy market, but it really gives advertisers the opportunity to kind of build meaningful relationship with their audiences, right? And then at the same time, you have you can do the precision of digital. And obviously, you know, we talked about fragmentation as well, and you know, eyeballs and users are moving to different platforms and different types of media. And I remember my first interaction with TV buyers was probably about 14 years ago, and I was talking to them about what is the true value, and we called it back then web TV, because there was no smart devices. I'm not sure how smart we were either, but I lost my thought a little bit talking about smart and dumb devices. No, but we talked about incremental reach, right? And we knew that viewership was declining, but back then everyone was still watching TV to some extent. So basically you could reach them, but we talked about that cost per contact in digital is going to be more expensive than increasing your frequency in TV. Fast forward to today, I don't think it matters how much frequency you're buying in TV, you're not going to reach everyone, right? So traditional linear TV reach has peaked. And, you know, preparing for this panel, I went into Distro yesterday, right? And I realized that on your first page, I think you had 16 different fast channels that you listed, right? Yeah, the featured ones, right? And, you know, I also looking at just the commercial history of television in India, I think up until 1991, I think Star was the first commercial channel that kind of offered an alternative to Doordarshan, right? And I think C followed in 1992. And I would say if you take all of these companies, you're probably offering more content than what the combined commercial broadcasting ecosystem did in the beginning of the 90s, right? So there is an explosion of content. And this creates a lot of issues for the ladies over here, right? Because it was easier to just reach out to maybe 2 or 3 kind of broadcasters, and we're talking about TRPs, et cetera. So I'm not going to take up the whole, but the promise is super interesting. It's about bridging the fragmentation. And yeah, we're just super excited about the opportunity, especially in India.
Excellent. To Sonam, you know, sorry, one very cheesy line that came to my mind earlier. Instead of saying Netflix and chill, I would probably say Pringle and chill. Sorry. But yeah, to the main question, content is a pivotal factor contributing to the success of fast channels in international markets. How has the introduction of fast channels impacted the content landscape in India?
Impact of fast channels on content landscape in India. Such a brilliant question. Let me give you a personal example. There have been so many nights when I've probably just switched on, you know, my mobile phone to watch content, and flipping through different pieces of content, I've probably actually fallen off to sleep. And I'm wondering that I actually do not end up seeing what I wanted to see just because of the fact that we have such a plethora of options. And all of that is thanks to all of the fast options that we have. We've got live television, we've got OTT platforms, we've got so much of content, so many genre baskets that we now have, that we actually have too much of choice. In the heydays, when there was just one television, you had to switch it on. And as you rightly said, you know, earlier there were just very few channels that we had. It was either DD1, then DD Metro. That was the only content that was available to watch. Today, people are falling off to sleep, actually not watching anything because they've wasted their time just surfing through what content to see. And that is actually an advantage, because this gives us such a big plethora of options to the consumers. Earlier, when they were forced to watch, now they choose what they have to watch. And that, I think, for marketeers is one of the biggest advantage of FAST.
I completely agree with you. To Vikas, and I don't know how many guys you know, but Vikas was instrumental in setting up one of the biggest news channels here in India. So his knowledge, I think, of course, is far better as far as the offline TV viewing consumption is concerned. Vikas, monetization is a critical aspect of fast platforms. Could you delve into the different business models employed by fast platforms to generate revenue through advertising, and how are these models evolving in response to market demands and viewer behavior?
That's many questions in one, right?
Yeah. Do you need the paper review?
No, maybe I'll, give my spin to
Sure.
the way I look at it, right? So you spoke about, the fact that I've been on the traditional side for the longest part of my career, right? And if I sort of look at what I'm trying to do now, vis-a-vis what I did in the past, I see a dramatic shift in the way this landscape is changing, right? We were discussing this outside. On a leading English channel, till about 5 years back, you could deliver a reach of 20-25 million. Sonam will remember when she did her earlier plans for any of the auto categories, there would be 30 English channels in those plans, right? There was creative, which was done in English. Hardly any creatives are done in English these days. They're done for just digital, right? A lot of these English broadcast channels have pretty much moved out of the broadcast distribution space and are looking at newer avenues, right? So what a plan could deliver, a 60 or 70 million weekly reach through an English campaign is just not, it's not easy anymore, right? At least on television. It started off with solving for some of the existential issues, right? How do you get incremental reach? How do you reach more surfaces? How do you build an opportunity to bring incremental revenue opportunities, right? So 3 years back when I tried to do this, while we were sort of losing viewership on television, that took me to pretty much every kind of surface. CTV, it could be, a aggregator app. We were also available in Ola. We tried to go into Just Dial. So any connected screen that we would find where we thought that the user would be really wanting to watch content, we made the content available, right? Fundamentally, that's an important thing to sort of solve for. So in my view, while there is a trend that we are seeing of fast in the Western markets, right, which is more targeted communities or cohorts that you're seeing. So when you look at sports, you're seeing channels which are dedicated to dedicated sports. You have a badminton channel, you have a racket sport channel, you have a motor racing channel. While that's not the trend that's happening in India right now, I think it'll follow. But what you're seeing is that this very vibrant FTA network of channels are moving into this ecosystem, right? So just to answer your question, what you're trying to build is a incremental reach opportunity, in my view, and which is not just CTV driven. It's basically making yourself available on all kinds of devices, right? If we just limit ourselves to CTV, then there is a certain amount of reach you achieve. But if it's across the internet, be it on OTT apps or web, then you're significantly sort of solving for, in my view, reach issues, right? Because cable and DTH has seen a significant sort of impact over the last 4 years. So I think FAST is a great way for a lot of existing content partners to solve for reach issue in times to come. We discussed that discoverability is definitely a challenge today, but I think that'll get solved. So I think the first objective is to make availability happen, and then discoverability will also happen, right? Apart from your regular video monetization opportunity, I'm also seeing lots of trends. Like if you hear about iris.tv, they're trying to bring opportunities to bring contextual banner opportunities in the right kind of content. So over a period of time, you will see sort of incremental revenue opportunities like we have seen on television, whether it's branded content. Today it's very easy to build a branded content channel. In the last 2 months, we have built about 30 channels. It takes about 2 weeks to build a new channel. So we identified wedding as a big space. It's a 3.5 lakh crore market in India, but there's no content dedicated to wedding. So we built a wedding channel. It took us 3 weeks to build a channel. It's that easy these days. So I think there's a lot of opportunity that will emerge. I think trends will happen over a period of time. It's still relatively a new space. But my gut is that it will bring incremental revenue for existing TV channels, but also bring opportunities for new content owners to create opportunities around empty spaces where there's no content.
And I think that's exactly what you're trying to solve at DistroTV, whereby not restricting the fast as a concept only to television, but make it available across all devices. Excellent. To Rahul, what impact are fast channels having on advertising revenues in other countries, and what is the projected trend in India?
I will not go as far as projecting the trends in India because I think India is a very fast evolving market. But I think what fast definitely solving for in a way is it removes the burden of subscriptions. To give you some statistics for India, the average OTT subscription in India is about 2.4. What fast definitely solved for is removing the burden of paying. Ad-supported content is a lot of, especially in the younger demographic, consumers in India prefer free content, and they're ready to kind of, pay for it in terms of, watching ads. So that's one. Fast definitely solves for a lot of, as I think Sonali mentioned, the choice and discerning user which, wants content in their own regional language, right, in various genres like, drama, comedy, entertainment. So that's second. To give you some statistics, I think in the US, by 2028, the FAST platform is projected to be about 19.8 billion by 2028. Majority of it is still being driven by US, which is 9.8 billion, and followed by UK and South Korea. In India, 2023, the FAST revenues are about 66 odd million. And projected to grow at a CAGR of 13% year on year till 2027. So by 2027, a fast platform is going to be about $104 odd million, which is substantial. Yes, I think that's the trend. But I would still club fast CTV OTT in a single channel. What is going to be disruptive is the linear advertisement spends are going to kind of move more towards digital. So it's not about fast versus OTT, it's more about linear versus digital. You've seen the trends in the US where CTV has already overtaken linear television. I think that's going to be the trend for India as well pretty soon. Whether it's going to be driven by fast or CTV and OTT put together, that remains to be seen. But yeah, digital is here to stay. Digital is here to drive the trend and make the trend. And of course, we need more measurement. We need more bang for the buck for advertisers' money. We need better planning. And I think more and more options available for the entire advertising ecosystem, the better it is, right?
Yep, that's true. That's true. And as long as all these things are getting routed via programmatic, some of us are very happy.
Absolutely.
Great. To you, Marcus. Personalization and targeting are key selling points for advertising on fast platforms. Can you discuss the strategies used to deliver more relevant ads to viewers and how this impacts the advertising ecosystem?
Yeah, with the precision and power of digital obviously gives a lot of options for advertisers, right? And I think the entire day today we heard from Samsung, which is a big player within fast, and today how much the TV costs, how big they are. Publishers are collecting data. advertisers have their own data they want to activate, etc. So I'm not going to dig too deep into the various kind of way you can execute it, but what I think is more interesting is the second part of your question, which is like, what type of impact will this have on the advertising ecosystem? And I think, you know, talking about CTV in television is very easy to kind of start from the advertiser point of view from a TV standpoint. You know, we've got TV-heavy brand, TV-heavy planners, etc. But the average Indian advertiser is not a TV advertiser, right? That's important to remember as well. And I was in a meeting yesterday with one of the biggest televisions and streaming providers in India. And according to them, there are about 300,000 advertisers in India, of which 10%, which is roughly like 30,000, you know, advertising through video, right? And this is going to mainly user-generated content platforms, etc. And I think it's not really only about bringing digital elements to television, it's about bringing television to advertisers and giving them the opportunity to build those kind of meaningful relationships. I think we will see more of a long tail, and we will see probably new types of advertisers entering the television world, whatever television is nowadays, right? And so we will see both fragmentation on the advertiser side of things as well as we'll see on the content side of things. And I think that's super interesting.
Yep. Sonali, in your view, what specific content preferences do Indian users have, and how can the industry ensure the provision of tailored content to meet their expectations?
Interesting. I think before I answer that question, I really love the take that you had, Marcus, on saying bringing television to advertisers. Because one of the biggest limitations so far has actually been cost barriers of making a meaningful dent on television, which is why a lot of advertisers have not been able to go that direction. But taking this approach actually opens up the world of not just audiovisual content, but actually TV content that a lot of advertisers would need to get into. So thank you for that. Coming back to the question you asked, Paras, I think a couple of things. First, there is nothing like content for, there are not 5 genres of content. And I think Sonam touched upon this, but I think we started many decades ago from television only, and then we had only DD, and we had, that was it, which is when it was not even platform, it was one thing. After which we evolved, or whatever was called evolution at that point, took us to 5 genres probably. It was GECs, it was movies, it was music, it was news, it was sports, and that was it. And then we continued to evolve, and then OTTs came into the picture, then before that somewhere YouTube came into the picture, UGC came into the picture, and today what we have is a complete explosion of literally saying that content is every single person's choice. And there is that many choices that exist that you can pretty much tailor across. I mean, the 6 of us would probably be, demographically, psychographically, as lookalikes would say, would probably be clustered into one, but I can guarantee that our choices would be completely and diametrically opposite. I love how Unilever approaches it, and actually that has now been taken by so many other brands as well, of saying many Indias. And I think today that many Indias definition has actually fragmented and splintered into multiple other segments right now, right? So it is not just demographic, it's not psychographic, it's not age, it's not region, it's not geography, it's none of those. So literally, and I think that's a good thing. However, what it does is it gives us a lot of fragmentation. And that fragmentation brings me to what the ecosystem needs to enable. And I don't think it's access to more content, because that's happening organically, that's happening naturally. What is not happening, and Vikas and I were talking about this and he just touched upon it as well, is access. And I think there are 3 things that are critical if the ecosystem has to become a little bit more streamlined and a little bit more structured. The first is access, the second is discoverability, and the third is measurement. In no particular order. Access is about saying, how do I get to this app within the app kind of ecosystem, and how do I then know where to find that new content? So what are networks and what are service providers actually doing to enable that? And the third one is about measurement. And while measurement exists in silos, incrementality is a real thing. And it's not just incrementality on any KPI. It is about saying what is the role that that ecosystem plays to a marketer's objective. And I think by just simply, we can't simply just say that it is there, so use it. Monies are limited, and those budgets have to be used most optimally. And ultimately, they have to have some sort of return on some effectiveness. I'm not even saying investment. It is on effectiveness, right? So what is that? And therefore, unified measurement is a desperate need of the hour. To say that what is it that every, on that spectrum that I talked about, what role does everyone play?
I completely agree with you. Considering the lack of time, I'm going to quickly skip to the last question, which is for Sonam. And this is more of a, looking into the future. Given the rise of fast platforms, what are your predictions for the future of traditional TV advertising? And how do you see advertising and content distribution evolving in the coming years?
I think when it comes to the future of fast, we as Indians are someone who always loves something that comes free of cost. Coming from an FMCG background now, I can tell you the buy one, get one offer always works for you. So when there is something that's free, I can tell you that 4 out of 5 Indians will absolutely agree to it. So therefore, the world of fast will definitely have so much of more scope to grow, which means that the choices and the options that will be available will also be growing. And therefore, as marketeers, we need to be cognizant of the fact, where do we rightly place our brands? How do we communicate with our audiences? And most importantly, how do we talk to them that registers with them? Given the fact that there's so much of content that's available, I think that becomes the most difficult question to answer.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think only the time will tell whether it's going to be, at least as far as the television part, television content is concerned, whether we're going to consume buy one, get one, or at 50% off. I think only time will tell that. But thank you so much, everyone, for being here, staying till late. Thank you, everyone. Have a good evening. Thank you.